I don't know if you heard, Bob, but I just got a pop-up on my computer saying that due to a new software update, my computer will automatically restart in 20 minutes. So I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know what anything around here means.
I
All
tell
right,
you,
well, you can hear me now, people?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're hearing me through the cell phone, which still has about 50% charge on it, so I hope that will suffice. So we can call this meeting to order then of the Public Works Committee. We have a quorum, so we can do business, and our first item of business is the minutes of January 10th, 2022.
This is Robert Burke. I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second to Robert's motion?
This is Susan. I'll second.
All right, we have a second to the motion. Is there any discussion regarding the minutes? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it and the minutes are approved. Second item of business is Middleton Beach Road reconstruction public hearing. Before I call the public hearing to order, I do want to remind people present that the purpose of the public hearing is to deal with the assessment resolution and the assessment situation. The design factors have all been approved already, and in fact, we have bids in for the project. So please remember that if you wish to make comments. So to begin with, I think, is Dan Perry here?
Yep, I'm on.
Okay, I think we're going to have Dan Perry of Verbiker present an overview of the project and then discuss a little bit what the assessment policy is, and then we'll go from there. So Dan, can you begin, please?
Yeah, and Sean, I don't know if you're going to bring up a map, otherwise I can just talk. But I kind of expect construction to start in May. Not sure the exact start date yet. We're kind of working with the contractor to see when they want to start exactly, but May is kind of targeted because they need to have the force main work that's in Marshall Park completed by Memorial Day weekend. So that is likely where they will start the project, and then we'll roll on to water main construction within Middleton Beach Road and Mendota Avenue. Once the project is started, the contractor needs to move continuously. They can't really break and go somewhere else, and they should have the job done hopefully, I guess, within 90 days. Drop dead kind of deadline if things really go bad, weather or something. They need to have it done by August 19th, which I believe is a week before the Good Neighbor Festival begins. I think is generally how we try and set that for really just buttoning up everything. The hours of operation that you should expect during the project will be 7:30 a.m. to 6:00 p.m. Monday through Friday. Equipment does need to get warmed up usually, so that is allowed to be turned on at 7 a.m. in the morning. Saturday work is, generally not allowed without special consideration and approval from the city. And they would only do that if they were behind schedule or something came up that they needed to keep working. The contractor, is responsible for the traffic control and everything during construction. They will maintain at least one travel lane during the construction hours and then open the roads back up to two-way traffic at night. Your only exceptions are going to be, if they're working directly in front of your driveway where, you might have to go a different route. It's also a good idea if you just want to avoid the construction hassle to just relocate your vehicle to a side street before 7:30 a.m. Again, if for some reason it's going to be in front of your driveway, we do generally try and knock on the doors and let people know that you're not going to have access for a little bit. Garbage will still be collected on Tuesdays, I believe, in this area, but please place them out by 6 a.m. for early collection. And then appliance collection and brush collection is generally suspended during this period. Construction sequence, just a little more detail there. This is kind of the recommended to the contractor, but this is likely, but it's not contractual. Force main replacement and the lift station upgrades will start the work. Then they move to the water main replacement, water service, and then remove any remaining asphalt that hasn't already been taken out. Redo the road and replace the road base. Any subgrade that's soft, we will keep digging and repair that. And then we'll move on to removing the driveway aprons and then installing curb and then putting back the new driveways. And then pave the street and then restore your grass and clean up the project. Another note about paving the street, you generally don't want to go back on it for about 4 hours. That's when traffic should go back on it. Assessment schedule. I believe those were all mailed out or provided to everyone based on the bid costs. I think they were right around, maybe something was a little higher, but I think other things were lower, so it might have evened out. The criteria for how we were replacing them is already previously discussed, but I can answer any questions on it if anyone's looked at it in more detail. Assessable costs for this in total project are about $120,000, which is about 4.4% of the whole project. Everything, this is usually covers, like I said, the sidewalk and the curb. Everything else is paid kind of from the general taxes or from, well, you know, the water utility budget has their thing. See, the cost for the assessments will be billed after the project is completed. You can pay the bill within 30 days or in 3 annual installments. I think otherwise you can talk with Sean Allsred or the finance, or Bill Burns, the finance director, for any specific questions. There are tree removals. I believe somebody might have mentioned that in an email that the city crews will start removing a couple trees along the west side of the project for their ease of maintenance and stormwater. Specific tree questions, if you have them, can be directed to me, or I might refer you to the city forester. And then kind of the last wrapping up here before we get into questions. If you have extra work or something that you need done, you can come talk to me or Sean Allsred on it and see if we can get you in touch with the contractor. They're not obligated to pick up the work, but they may be able to, you know, do additional driveway work for you if needed. Otherwise, you can contact your own contractor and get work done. And then one other note I have here is brick pavers. If you have a brick paver driveway, you might want to get in touch with us because we would like to know if you want to replace it back with brick or just have it be put back as concrete. Generally, the city will pay and give a credit for the amount of concrete that would be put back in at that price, but you would be responsible for hiring your own contractor to go and reinstall a brick pavers, and we would give you that credit back. So again, if you have brick pavers and you haven't looked into this yet, please get in contact with us so we know who might want to do it and we can kind of help move that along. Otherwise, I think that's it, and I'm open to any questions or comments at this time, and I'll be available during the whole construction project too. So,
Okay, and I know Bob has somewhat limited capabilities tonight, so I'll be calling on people as they raise their hand. If you have not yet raised your hand in Zoom, they keep moving that feature for us for whatever odd reason. So lately it's been, if you hover on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a bunch of icons, or if you're on a tablet or phone device, sometimes you'll just tap the screen to bring those up because they become invisible during the meeting. But if you find a button that says reactions and click on that, that should open a little temporary pop-up window, and near the bottom of it will be a thing called raise hand. That shows up then on my screen as a raised hand, and it keeps people in order in which they raised their hands. So if that makes sense, great. If I've gone too fast at some point, just sort of interject. And I would say too, if you're on a phone, not with a computer or tablet where you can raise hand, near the end someplace, we'll make sure to just ask if there are any remaining questions. So with that said, I saw that Alder Emily Kuhn raised her hand first.
Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to everyone for helping us through this process and for explaining this today. The assessment is a little lower than I was expecting, so I appreciate that. Also, as I have had a few questions from constituents on where the construction was going to start, if we know that. So like if it's starting at the north end or the south end or near Mendota, and it might involve where the water main needs to be fixed. So if you have that information, I'd appreciate it.
We don't know for sure. I think that technically that's up to the contractor to determine which way he wants to go. I think we've suggested that they start at Mendota Avenue, at Mendota and Allen, and work their way east, and then work south that way, that direction, and then come back and go north is the suggested route. I can't. They can choose a different route if they want to go that way.
Okay. I appreciate that. I know that water main really needs replacement. The homeowners right there are very excited for it. So thank you for sharing that.
This is Sean Ulster. Dan, I would also just add that they will be working at the far south end in the park area there, because that needs to be finished by, I think it's Memorial Weekend, right, Dan?
Right.
So that's the first place that people would see them, even if there's not a lot of activity on Middleton Beach Road itself.
Yeah, and I can't recall. They may have a second crew going. I'm not sure if they wanted to do that or not yet. They were kind of talking about it, of having one crew doing the force main and another crew starting water main. But at a minimum, you're going to just see them at Marshall Park first and then move over to Mendota.
Great. Yeah, that'll be great to get the boat launch kind of open and us out of here. Christina Lemon, next up.
Thank you. My question has to do with the trees that you talked about maybe needing to take some down on the west side of Middleton Beach Road. Should we assume that that wouldn't include any trees beyond the 8-foot distance from the current road? Or, I mean, how will that will be decided which of those trees will need to come down? I'm concerned that we keep as many as we can. Penny, our former forester, planted a lot of those, and some of them came down a couple of years back when it was thought that everything had to come down between the road and the ditch, and then realized that that didn't have to happen. So anyway, tell us about how that'll be determined, which trees will be cut on the west side of the road.
I don't know, Sean, if you have different information, but I checked in with Brad Hopwood, our operations manager, on that. And I know he's been in coordination with our city forester on that. And I can't say if they've marked them already or not, but they were hoping this winter to get at those when they're not out plowing or salting, that they could get on trees, so that before the project even starts, that's taken care of. But the idea is not to clear cut the entirety of the west right of way out to the ditch, but we will be doing some work that would be affected by the force main and by some of these drainage ways that we need to connect the west side of the road out into the ditch. So there's some grading work going on. And so with trenching going on and with grading going on, we want to be sure to proactively get trees removed that otherwise might have significant root damage and fall someplace.
Christina, this is Sean Altserd. We met with the street crew last week, and Brad Hopwood, and he's Dan Perry also. Dan and I identified the trees that were going to need to be removed as part of the project.
Mhm.
They didn't, they started to mark those, but it was actually so cold, the paint was freezing almost instantly, so we couldn't do too much, but I know there's one large tree. Dan, was that down by the pump?
Yeah,
That,
yeah, it's kind of down there.
yeah, there's a hydrant that's going in there that the roots would be in the way. So there's a larger tree that will be coming down. Beyond that, the city crews are working with the assistant city engineer to determine what they would need to do with the ditch. And then there was a few trees that were leaning towards to the east that they were concerned could fall and land on the power lines. So you're going to see them probably as early as this week
Okay,
to start removing those trees. And that's beyond the scope of this project. That's something separate. But as part of that, they're taking down the trees that we need as well. So
okay. Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it.
There won't be any trees taken along the soccer fields, I believe. None of like the newer trees that were planted there will be taken down. I know that.
To know.
Anybody else that wants to raise their hand? And again, it should be if you hover, click on, pan around on your screen, something that's called reactions. And then within that palette should be a feature called raise hand. See, Ginny, you have your hand up.
I just want to say on behalf of all of the neighbors, I want to thank Public Works, Dan Perry and the Verbecker team, as well as the Public Works Committee for the work that they've done so far to get us to this point. I think the neighbors are really pleased with the work that's been done and the design that you've come up with. And we appreciate all of the decisions that you've made. We feel like we developed a good partnership with you, and we're looking forward to continuing that partnership through the construction phase. So thank you for what you're doing. I don't really have any specific questions on this assessment, but if others do, they can certainly ask them.
Sure. And I would say too, if it's an individual question, not for the overall project, but more about focus